Hello and welcome. I'm Carrie from Oregon,
And I'm Regina from Atlanta, and we are
the Wine
Wine
Sisters.
Sisters of the Vine.
That's right. And it's our episode 6 today, isn't it, Regina?
Yeah, it's amazing. How did we get
Yeah.
to here?
So excited about our guests today. And
Yes.
they are all here on the set with some remarkable wine and stories and recipes. So, Regina, you want to take it away introducing these lovely people?
Yes. So I actually would like for them to introduce themselves, but I'm going to tell who we have on for today. We have Christi Moon from Babylonstoren Wines, and we have Colleen from the Die Global Group, and we have Marianne from Gastro Soul. And I'm so excited. I cannot wait to get these recipes and hear all about these amazing women. And then Babylonstoren, the wines are just amazing. So I'm going to just go in alphabetical order. Yeah. So Christi, can you just give us a little bit about your background and maybe 1 to 2 sentences and something that we will definitely need to know about you?
Well, I started importing wine with my dad in 2002. We actually started with Argentine wines and have literally done almost everything under the sun. So you name a country, we probably have imported from there. Then we met with the gentleman that is the cellar master of Babylonstoren in 2013, and that really just changed the direction and changed our lives because we went from selling wine from a winery to a brand that was so much more before it sold wine. So it just was kind of just a different experience. But I mean, I love what I do. I feel really lucky that I get to, one, build relationships, and continue those relationships. But then also I talk about wine all day. It's awesome.
Yay.
Not a bad job to have.
Yeah.
I feel the exact same way. And so thank you so much. And Colleen, tell us all about you and all the amazing things that you and your organization are doing.
Thank you. And I wish I was talking about wine all day, but I'm living my life. I'm Colleen Green. I grew up in Oakland, California. But since then, I've lived in a lot of other places. I'm the mom of 2 boys, 2 teenage boys, and I currently work and live in the Washington, D.C. area. But for my career, I have really focused on global development, global foreign assistance, and I currently am the vice president of a company called DAI Global, which it's a global development organization that works with the US government on foreign aid projects. And I really focus on the part of our work that focuses on working with the private sector and helping countries to build their private sector, people to get access to great jobs and a higher standard of living. And, I love my job. I think I've landed, I don't know, the best job ever. But certainly since COVID started, things are a little different. I don't do the things I used to love to do, which were like traveling around the world and really getting to meet new people, experience new cultures, and really understand the problems that we're facing today. But I'm still doing that from home. And I'm, daily calls, whether it's to Africa or the Middle East. We've got projects now in Latin America as well. Yeah, and I guess I really love the fact that, I continue to learn things about people and places every day, and I think that's what really gets me up in the morning and starts the engine.
That's what we like, isn't it, Regina?
It sounds
but I like to end the day with a little wine.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us today, Colleen. Colleen is actually my friend from college, so here we are years later, still enjoying good food and wine.
Amen.
Right. And with that, Marianne.
Yeah, so I'm Marianne Shihamba, and I have been an event planner. I've been an event planner for over 20 years, and mainly a lot of my events have been overseas. And so I used to work with FHI. I organized their conferences at all the AIDS conferences. We did Barcelona, Thailand, and I believe South Africa with FHI, but then work with other organizations as well. Now, the wonderful thing about traveling to all of these countries, over 30 countries, is that I've always tried to build in a little bit of time for myself so that I could explore the local food scene, you know, either going to restaurants, visiting producers, vineyards, or olive oil makers, and just talking to just people on the street about what turns them on about food. And the great thing about living in Washington, D.C. is we have just so many ethnic grocery stores here. So I'm able to recreate so many of the dishes that I have discovered overseas. So, you know, with COVID, my event planning is and conference planning is completely at a standstill. It's just like there's no more conferences. But I had also started teaching cooking lessons locally here in DC. That has also come to an end. I'm going to start doing it again virtually. So I'm so glad to just kind of get back into the kitchen and get my hands dirty and just and whip up some really great dishes. And I'm so glad that we're doing South African wines. I love South Africa. I love Durban, Cape Town, and of course the wine country and Stellenbosch, you know, all the other, just probably some of the most beautiful, stunning geography and in the world. I just absolutely love it. I'm excited that we're going to be doing some Africa focus today.
Amen. I want to double down on that.
Right. Here's
Yes.
to that. Right.
Cheers to that.
With that in mind, what do you think we should get started here, right, in that food conversation, since we're on that topic? And tell us about your oxtail recipe, Marianne. Let's jump
Yeah,
right
I'm
into
so
it.
anxious about that. I love oxtails more than anything.
I know,
ever.
right? Oh, sounds amazing. Oh, my
I've never
goodness.
had them. I'm so excited to
Really? Okay. So I've got about 2 pounds of oxtail in this bowl. And what I'm going to do now is just kind of add, there are 3 stages to oxtail. The first stage is the marinade. Second stage is braising. And then the third stage is like when it's almost ready to cook, we're going to add some more ingredients and then it'll be ready. Okay?
right.
So I'm going to just go ahead and start with our ingredients here. Okay. So I've got my 2 pounds of oxtail. Now I'm going to add chopped onion,
Right.
black pepper, onion powder, garlic powder. Can you guys see okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I've chopped garlic. Got about, a teaspoon and a half of paprika, really nice paprika, smoked paprika. This is thyme. This is about a tablespoon of thyme. You can use fresh thyme. I don't have any right now, but dried is fine. I've got 3 scallions. Some allspice. You can use allspice seeds, about 6 or 7 allspice seeds, but you can use ground allspice as well. You don't have that. Now I've got about a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. And I'm putting about 2 tablespoons of, this is called brown sauce, okay? And basically what this is it's like a burnt sugar sauce. You know when you look on the ingredient list and they say, you know, caramel color, caramel flavoring, that's what this is. So it's basically sugar that's been cooked down and brown, and it gives lovely color and a really nice depth of flavor and a tiny bit of sweetness, but it's like really got some little nice umami to that.
Oh, wow. Look at that.
Yeah.
It's
It's really good. Brown sauce, you can find it in a lot of Latino grocery stores and other.
Can we see the label on, what is that called? That's just like basic brown sauce?
Yes, it's called browning. Sorry,
Browning. Okay.
Yeah.
And I've seen it. You can get it at the local stores, like Kroger carries it, and I believe Publix.
Yeah.
So you can get it locally. It's delicious.
She's talking your language, Chef Paula.
I know, right?
Yes,
Your
we
chef.
got another chef dialed in.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, so I'm just gonna mix this all together. Now, ideally, um, this should marinate at least for an hour, right? Now, most Jamaican moms would kill me if they knew that if they felt that I did not marinate it overnight. So it's usually you need to marinate it overnight and just really just develop that flavor and just get the meat to soak up all of those spices. Oh goodness, it's so good. It already smells good. Okay, so now I'm going to turn on my heat here and get these out of the way. And I'm going to heat up about 2 or 3 tablespoons of oil.
Is that a crusade? Is that how you pronounce that? The pan?
Yes.
Is that a crusade?
You know, I coveted a Le Creuset pot for years, and I never quite made the plunge. And then Mike surprised me one year for Christmas, and I was like, oh, okay, all right.
Right.
He's a keeper.
Yeah.
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 Good job, Mike.
Yeah.
Yay, Mike.
So, okay, so these have been marinating overnight. So we're going to just take the oxtail and just kind of pat it dry a little bit because we want it to really get a nice little brown crust.
That looks so good.
It smells good over there right now.
I know. It's,
right?
Now, is the oxtail all meat or is there like a little bit of bone in the middle?
There's a big bone in the middle. There's a big bone right in the middle. And so I also, before I cook the oxtail, we also want to wash it really well. You want to wash it in water with a little bit of vinegar in it. And just that kind of gets rid of sometimes it's got a little bit of an off taste to it.
So how is that pan on medium? You're just sauteing them?
Yeah, it's on, yeah, it should be on medium. It is on medium now. So you just really want to develop a nice crust on this, and you want to brown it on both sides.
Sounds yummy.
So Regina,
I know it does sound yummy.
Regina, do you want to maybe, since this is an appropriate time about food and wine, do you want to, you and Christy want to talk about the Nebuchadnezzar?
Yeah, so we just did a great South African tasting with Christy. So she does it so much justice. It's one of my favorites. It's one of my new favorites. I'm going to allow Christy to go ahead and talk about Nebuchadnezzar and kind of I really want Christy to talk about the label on there because there's so much meaning in this entire space. Like, I love it. And the fact that it is such a delicious red wine, and I know it's going to be amazing with these oxtails. I mean, I can totally smell them right now. So Christy, are you on? You want to talk about Nebuchadnezzar?
Absolutely.
My favorite.
So just like a little bit of a background of Babylonstoren, it is first and foremost a garden. And so if you look at our logo, the flower represents the garden. And in fact, I've got a bottle of our cab here, not the Neb for some reason. I don't know why I didn't put that on my desk. But you got the flower, and that celebrates our garden. And like, that's one of the most special things about us. In fact, the current owner bought the garden for his wife. You know, I would say some guys, they buy flowers, other guys, they buy the whole garden. I mean, tomato. But so you've got that, and then you've got the bird is for nature. And, you know, really, if you look at the property of Babylonstoren, everything that they do is try to work with nature. So their first restaurant was built out of the horse stalls that were already there. They didn't have to knock down a structure and then pick it back up. There you go, Regina. That's a better picture. they, you know, so they really do concentrate on working with nature and reusing everything that they can. And then last but not least is the pipe, and that is for our farmers. It is still a practice for farmers at the end of the day to kind of sit back and have a pipe, and without them we wouldn't be who we are. And that's one of, I think, the most special things about Babylonstoren is that our owners really care about all of the employees, and, you know, kind of their health and well-being. They send the kids of all the employees to school, so, you know, education is so huge there. They have a hot lunch every day in a cantina, and everybody, 300 employees, can participate in that every single day if they want to. So it really is like the garden is the heart of it. And it's, you know, it's kind of what started the whole thing with Babylonstoren.
Yeah.
But then to move to Nebuchadnezzar, Nebuchadnezzar was the king that planted the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. We are a garden. We're called Babylonstoren, so hence that's the name. But it is our reserve wine, and it is a Bordeaux style blend. If you guys know anything about South Africans and their wine varietals, they love French varietals. So on Babylonstoren, yes, we have some Pinotage, which is, you know, a little bit of the exception, but they plant Chenin Blanc, Viognier, Semillon, Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, Malbec. So, I mean, these are like the big guys that all came from France. So they love their French wine. They love their French wine making. Our Nebuchadnezzar is about half Cabernet, and then it's got all four of the other big Bordeaux red grapes. So you've got about 20% Merlot, then you've got Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, and a little bit of Malbec to it. They're all aged for 2 years in their own French barrels, and then blended after that to come to kind of the flavor profile of what you get with our Neb. It's all of the best grapes that we have on property go into these wines, and it's a limited edition. Regina, would you share that label one more time?
Sure.
I feel like the label is like, it's like art, because they literally take, go up a little bit so we can see the numbers.
It's very unique.
You've got the number of bottles in that vintage, and then handwritten in, you've got, that's bottle number 7,250. That's the only 7,250 that they have. And there's usually two people sitting there. One is writing the number on the label and sticking it in the box, and the other one is checking it off, and then they're picking up the next bottle of wine and they're doing it. So it's literally very tedious, but it's just such a beautiful, powerful wine. Recently I had a 2012. It was still just, just delicious. And it had several years to go. So you can drink it now. You can decant it. It really wants like something with umami. This is going to be amazing with it, with some of those, like those juices and all those big
Oxtail, right?
Yeah. But it's just, it's just a really big wine, and for the price, I think it just over delivers, because, you're talking about something that is like the big California Meritages, you're talking like $60-$70 for the Neb, you're getting it for $45. So you're really getting a lot of wine for your money with the Nebuchadnezzar.
Well, that's fabulous. And obviously you work in a global marketplace. So, what do you think is like your greatest achievement so far working in that global marketplace and bringing light to, diversity and inclusivity in the world food and wine market? What are you most proud of in that?
I say twofold, because as a woman in the industry specifically, I feel like I'm not old enough to say this, but I am. When I started,
I hate to interrupt, but I'm just going to move to another step. I hate to interrupt. I'm just showing you that the oxtail is nicely browned now. It's got a nice.
Please do. How exciting! Yes.
And so then I'm just going to add all of those ingredients of the marinade.
Wow.
That looks so yummy.
That looks delicious.
Hot water. And you want to be careful. You have to add hot water and not cold, because if you add cold water, the proteins in the beef will seize, and it'll make it tough. Okay?
Make it tough, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then, so now is when I add my habanero pepper.
just
And I'm
one?
not breaking it. I'm not breaking the skin. Because if I break the skin, then it'll get really hot, you know. But I just want the flavor of the habanero. I do not want I don't want the heat right now, okay? Now, the other thing I'm going to add now is a Maggi cube. Now, in a pinch, you can use a bouillon cube or beef stock, but I think Maggi just has a lot more savory, just a better depth of flavor. You can find Maggi cubes in grocery stores, in regular grocery stores, but definitely in Latino and Asian markets. So I've gone ahead and peeled one because they're a pain to peel. So I just did that ahead of time. So and I'm just gonna sprinkle that in there and give this a really good stir. Now,
It looks
the
amazing.
best oxtail. If you want to cook this in an Instapot, this is the time when you would put it into the Instapot, right? Now, I like a low and slow braise, and so basically this is going to cook for a good 3 hours. It's wonderful. So one of those wonderful things that is great to cook, you know, when you're in the winter time and the whole house is just filled with the wonderful smell of oxtail. So that's the low and slow. Now, we don't have 3 hours, so I'm going to move forward to what I've already made ahead of time. This has been cooking for 3.5, almost 4 hours, and you see that it's just falling off. The bone is just falling off the bone here, right? So once this has been cooking for about a good 2.5, 3 hours, the last half hour you want to add 2 more ingredients. One, that staple of ours, about 2 tablespoons of ketchup. And believe me, this is Jamaican. The Jamaicans put the ketchup in. It's not an American adaptation.
I love ketchup. I mean,
yeah,
it's
it's sweet, it's savory, it's got, you know, everything, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So, see my little habanero peppers floating around there? There you go, see? And then you want to add a can of rinsed butter beans. And that,
Rinse the butter beans. Okay.
Yeah, you take you need to drain them and rinse them. Okay. So that's going to cook for another half hour. But since we don't even have a whole half hour left, here's what the finished dish looks like.
Oh, beautiful.
Oh my God, that looks so yummy.
And I serve
Television.
And I serve it with Jamaican rice and beans, you know, red beans and rice, and absolutely fantastic.
Wow. So, Christy, can you see that in South Africa? Like that would be something that would really go well with the Nebuchadnezzar. And I know
absolutely. I might want to taste.
Oh, you know what? Let me try.
Yes.
Okay, that's a good idea.
That's not fair. She gets to try it.
Okay,
I know. I want to
eat. Oh, there's a Nebuchadnezzar right there. Look at
there
that.
You go. Mm-hmm.
Christy, you were going to mention what you were just finishing your thing, Marianne. That's amazing. We're so jealous.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah,
yes.
That's good.
And here's the let's raise a glass to Marianne. Oh my gosh, thank you so much.
That is amazing.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. And it's just got a little hint of the pepper, a little bit of heat, not overwhelming, but it's the flavor of the habanero comes through.
Right.
The flavor of the thyme, the flavor of the browning sauce, all of those things just kind of melded together, because what's great is we've already marinated overnight, and you've got this just explosion of flavor in your mouth. Just and especially what's great about this is such a highly seasoned and highly flavorful dish that you need a wine like a Nebuchadnezzar that can stand up to it. A really strong, wine that just totally just fills your mouth.
Half blend, half Cabernet, isn't it, Christy? Half Cabernet.
Half cab, and then the other half is the other Bordeaux red. So just all big, fat red wine.
Right.
Yeah, big Bordeaux.
They're super big. They're perfect with that like fatty oxtail, aren't they?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Just rounds it out. Oh, that's so good.
Chef, would you mind sharing your recipe? I've never made oxtails, but I do want to try it now. Will you mind sharing that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all the recipes are on my website and my Instagram. So and also I've sent them to Carrie and
I'll be putting them on our Wine Sisters website too.
Yeah.
So we get to share it with everybody. So,
Okay, so I have to tell you, Marianne, I've made oxtails because I love them, but mine doesn't look anything like that, and it's probably like less than like I only had like a quarter of the ingredients that you have in yours, and I'm going to be using your recipe.
And believe me, I mean, this is a recipe that I've been using for a while. Okay, now you ask any Jamaican grandma, and she will fight me. Okay, it's like, no, why didn't you put oyster sauce? And why didn't you put this? Whatever. But you know,
right.
it's a very forgiving, very forgiving recipe. And it just, you know, you're gonna tweak it to your taste. Some people like it a little hotter, some like it a little more mild, some people like it a little sweeter, some people actually add sugar to it. So it's all up to you. It's very forgiving.
Right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well,
so I have to ask Colleen, because, you know, you also work in a global marketplace and see so much of the world. Can you tell us what your greatest achievement is in your career and how bringing light to diversity and inclusivity is a part of what you do every day?
Thank you for asking that. I wish it were in food. Maybe I'm hungry now. No, you know, I have a great job right now, but I think one of my greatest achievements, and I hope my greatest achievement is yet to come, but let's just say for now, I had the great privilege of working in Tanzania for 5 years, running a program for the US government that was about working with HIV affected families and households and really trying to help those families get back on their feet. And many times these were people who were living in, you know, abject poverty, who had lost the main breadwinner for the family. They were families that were headed by grandparents who had lost the children, their children, but were taking care of their grandchildren. And there were also households that were working, that we were working with that had people who were living with HIV and were on treatment, but had many times lost hope. And a lot of what we did focused on really trying to work with them to look at new ways to, new types of agriculture to take on, to adopt new income strategies, to find new ways to earn income for the household, savings techniques, and also ways to sort of prepare gardens and keep food at home that was more nutritious for all that were involved. And I think for me, the inclusion piece was really about like working with people who had been, you know, highly stigmatized in their local culture and often lacked hope. And I think, you know, the work was really about trying to show them that they have the skills and the ability to overcome, you know, what is a really debilitating disease, but continue to live and to you know, raise their children and do well. And so a little bit of a slight difference from food and wine, but, you know, also like in a culture that has, you know, a lot of food, interesting food and a food history to offer. So I'm happy to also talk about that at some point.
well,
Thank you. That sounds
looking
amazing.
forward to hearing from that, the recipe too, and that story is a little later on from Tanzania.
Yep.
So our next wine tasting is going to be Vino Verde.
Woo-hoo.
This is the label for the Vino Verde that I have. This is actually from Portugal. You guys can see the label right there. And Vino Verde is really amazingly an affordable wine on the world market. I got this bottle for $8 at the local Fred Meyer that we have here on the west coast of the United States. which is quite unusual for a white wine. And Vino Verde is heavily imported now into the United States because it's so diverse in so many levels. And one of those diversities that it really does go really well with in food is fish, which is another dish that Marianne is going to discuss with us. Now, I hope that I get the pronunciation of this right, maboke. Is that right, Marianne?
It's maboke, yes.
Okay.
So let me get my ingredients together here.
And I understand, as Marianne was talking to me about this dish, and by the way, here, cheers to you for presenting another dish, Marianne. Here's the Vino Verde.
I know.
Highly recommend it.
Yeah.
Explain this to me wrapped in banana leaves, but if you didn't have banana leaves, use tin foil, right?
Yes. Now, you can find banana leaves in Asian markets. They're in the frozen food section. At Asian markets, Latino markets, because so many people around the world do use banana leaves as a cooking vessel, right? And the thing about banana leaves is that they are, it lends a really amazing aroma to the food that it's cooked in. So you can use aluminum foil if you can't find it, but you know, if you can possibly find banana leaves, just go ahead and do that.
Okay.
So let me just show you our ingredients here. So I have some Chilean sea bass that I've mixed with some chopped tomatoes, chopped garlic, salt and pepper, and a little bit of hot sauce. Now again, if you want to add more hot sauce, then you know you can add parsley, cilantro if you'd like. But you know, just basically it's a simple, very simple dish, and that goes on the grill. Now, the first thing I want to show you is how to prepare the banana leaves. So when they come out of the packet, what you want to do is they come frozen. So go ahead and take it out of the freezer because and let it thaw, because that will it's easier to separate the leaves when they are thawed. Okay, when they're not frozen. So look how huge they are. All right. So
that is huge.
Packet goes a long way. So what I'm going to do now is, so the banana leaves are a little stiff. So what you want to do is you want to take the leaves and you run them over an open flame. And you would just, when you see is that it starts to turn a little bit translucent there.
Oh, wow. That is like pro circuit.
Yes.
Wow.
Whoops, here, let me get a hold of it. So, yeah, you see how it gets a little translucent there?
Yeah.
Yeah, way to go with opticals, Marianne. You're like upping it a notch for us. That's impressive.
And so, so
cool.
you just want to make sure that this, and what happens is it gets so much more flexible. So look how flexible this part is, as opposed to this. All right.
So what would you connect this with? I know that, you know, you were born in the Congo, right?
Yes.
So this is the question. How would you say that food and wine connects us? I mean, just that women that are doing these things and cooking this recipe in Africa, or women cooking it in their Atlanta kitchen.
Well, look, here's the thing. I have all kinds of respect for gourmet chefs and people who've been to culinary school.
Right.
I think that they've taught us a lot about food and culture. But even if you ask those gourmet chefs how they came to love food, it's not because they went to a 5-star restaurant and then fell in love. No, it's usually because there was some woman, usually a woman, in their house who cooked 3 meals a day with and deliciously. Okay,
right.
Okay, and finding with just the ingredients that you found around, and even ingredients that are usually are cheap, like oxtail. Oxtail it used to be a throwaway. It used to be considered trash, but housewives and great cooks turned it into a treasure. Okay,
right.
So I love fantastic restaurants, but let's not forget where this love of cooking came from.
Right.
Okay, let's not forget where these techniques came from. Let's remember that there's a banana leaf laying around. Okay, and
Right.
guess what? You throw it in the fire and it didn't burn. It's like, wait a minute. Why
Right.
don't we use this as a cooking vessel? Right?
Right. And food
And they
definitely
don't
is a
teach you
universal.
that at the cordon bleu. They
Yeah.
do not teach you that at the cordon bleu. I mean, let me assure you. But women all over the world have looked around and tried to find use the resources that were around them and fed their families.
Banana leaf, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, that's how I feel. Food is a connection. It's the food, for example, is the first form of love that we get. The very first thing that you do with a baby is you feed them, right? The
Yeah.
very first
Yes, that's true.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that's beautiful. Well put.
So let me just show you how to make them up, okay? So now that I've got my banana leaves that are nicely prepped here, I'm going to take a piece, just say, let's say maybe about half an inch, half of like 8 inches or so.
Okay.
So you're going to cut a piece off. And then I'm just going to spoon this fish in the middle. Okay. I'm going to fold it over once, twice. Okay. I'm going to have the seam that's up. I'm going to have the seam up this way. I'm going to fold it over to the left. Fold it over from the right. And then secure it with toothpicks.
I have a feeling yours would look different than mine.
Yeah,
Oh, it's
mine would
so
be all over
easy.
the counter.
It is so easy.
Right. After your 1,001 time of holding the leaf. Yeah, but I think
There we go.
I
All
didn't
right.
realize the intriguing part is that you can actually put them on the grill.
Exactly. So you put them on the grill, which I've done. Just secure and put them on the grill for about 20 minutes. This is what they look like after they've been on the grill. So you take out the toothpicks, open it up, and you have this lovely packet.
Oh, beautiful.
Wow.
Oh, yum.
Just delish.
I'm gonna
And let me tell you,
that, right?
the Vino Verde.
I just want you to pronounce it with your beautiful
Yeah,
accent.
That is so pretty and lovely. It looks delicious.
Doesn't it, Regina? Oh my gosh.
Yes, I want some right now. I'm so hungry.
I know, right? My wine sister.
Let's see how good this tastes with the Vino Verde.
Yeah, again, it's not fair. She gets a taste.
I know, right? She's just torturing us.
Oh, that's good.
It's good torture though, because we're gonna take the recipe. I'm all inspired now.
Yeah, I'm definitely doing both of these this week.
I know, right? I think that the banana leaf too, the presentation is fabulous. Thank you so much, Marianne.
You're very welcome.
Yes. So we've been going through a lot with the pandemic and all of what
we have.
2020 has had to offer. So Christy, I'll start with you first, just alphabetically. What's been the biggest challenge in doing business during the pandemic?
Well, I like to get in front of people and I like to do a lot of stuff that's face to face. So not being able to actually get out there in the market was a challenge. Everybody, people are afraid and nobody wants you to travel and go see them. God forbid, you've been on an airplane and then you're going into places and you're trying to be sensitive to that. So for me, in having a smaller brand that really does take kind of getting to them, it definitely was a change, just trying, figuring out other things that we could do. So, Zoom was a godsend with that coming through and really being able to see people's faces and their reactions and stuff like that. And and, you know, just like really reaching out and calling your, you know, your customers and making sure that they know, even though you can't see them, that you're still there and you're still supporting them and what do they need and all of that. Not to mention, I mean, we are lucky we have a little bit of an online presence. And it got crazy with orders online. Like people were buying wine like it was Christmas. And
Yep, agreed.
It was crazy. Shifting this part of our business that had been like kind of slow and steady to like these numbers that just surged without knowing that it was coming was kind of crazy. But, you know, I was talking about this earlier that I feel like, and I've had people tell me, especially a dear friend, about how anxious this whole time has made them. And I think with us really reaching out to our customers and really talking to people about like, we're all in this together. Like, you know, I'm with you. It's scary. It's weird. But we're going to get through this. And it's so much easier to get through it if you have a glass of wine. So
much easier.
Together. But just having like compassion and understanding that we are all out of sorts, you know, and everybody wants to get back to normal. So, I mean, I'm sure Regina, you can say that, like just the difference between having people in your store tasting wine and with you talking it through, and then it's got to be crazy, just the difference there.
It is. And, you know, I cannot wait until we can have people in-house again, because it's nothing like for winemakers or importers or distributors to connect to consumers in person. And so that's why we've been diligently trying to continue our virtual presence, just because we want people to know that we're still here and we still want to educate them about these amazing wines. And so that's why we continue to do it. I mean, I closed down my shop for 3 months and we only did phone orders and curbside. I mean, literally we had no one to come into the shop. So we've now since opened, and it's nothing like having that one-on-one connection or that, you know, connection in person. So as soon as we can get back to that, as much as possible, I can't wait.
Here's to that.
Cheers to that.
Right. Cheers to that. Colleen, we hear you have a recipe and a story from Tanzania to share.
Yeah, I mean, so unfortunately, I'm not in my kitchen like Marianne is, although I briefly contemplated it today, and there are a couple recipes that will come your way.
Right.
You know, so these were from my time in Tanzania, which, you know, Tanzania is has a very rich food culture, not unlike South Africa. You know, Tanzania very much benefited from the sort of thousands of years of trade down the coast of the Indian Ocean. And so you have spices and food and recipes that have been carried with those traders over the years. And so things like chapati and samosas and pilau, things that we sort of associate with Southeast Asia and India, are things that are very common day in Tanzania. And you have a lot of use of coconut and curries and things like that. And so the recipes that I had shared and will be part of this, this video blog, there are a couple things that are kind of more Tanzanian street food. One of them is mishkaki, which is basically grilled beef, although you can do it with fish and you can do it with chicken, and it's lightly marinated. And then a sort of a second recipe, which is total Tanzanian street food, which is chips mayai, which is literally like an omelet with French fries in it. So like, you know, the best bar food or the best hangover food. And then I included some other recipes like wali wanasi, which is a coconut rice dish, again, sort of with that coconut influence, and coconut milk cooked with the rice, and something that in Tanzania they call mchicha. They call it something different in other African countries, but it's basically the sort of local greens. In Tanzania, it's often everything from sort of the greens from sweet potatoes, or it could be amaranth, but it's whatever greens you have, and it's cooked often with some peppers, onions, can also be with coconut milk, but it's a nice sort of side dish to sort of a main meal of kind of grilled meat. And then, you know, the kind of usual thing that most Tanzanians eat at least once a day, if not more times a day, is ugali, which is a porridge that's
Marianne's
made.
nodding her head, recognize those names.
It's made with cornmeal.
Right.
Personally, as you know, it was not something that I loved, but I did love a lot of these other dishes, and so I hope that you'll enjoy them. And I think for me, I think one of the things that was always sort of kind of magical about Dar, it's a, you know, very sleepy town on the Indian Ocean. It is not the capital of Tanzania, but it is the business capital. But on Sundays, families would gather together and they would go and watch the sunset on Cocoa Beach, and they would have a lot of sort of street vendors out there, you know, selling the chips mayai and grilled meat and things like that. And it was a great way to bring people together to sort of celebrate the end of a weekend and to, you know, sort of share in the experience together. And I loved that about a lot of the things about living in Dar es Salaam. Being able, you know, part of this sort of kind of, it had a little bit of island culture, if you will, you know, a couple hours by ferry to Zanzibar. You know, you could take a wooden boat for the day to, you know, to the beaches of the smaller islands that were off the coast, including having, you know, grilled fish at, you know, noon with chips and what have you. And
Fabulous.
I really miss all of those days. I also miss, you know, we had, you know, it was because it was such a quiet place, we had many friends that we would gather with on the weekends. It was really what you did is you had family friendships. And we did spend a lot of time drinking South African wine, so cheers to that.
Cheers to that.
Thank you for all of those. But I think those are, you know, for me, were some of the sort of best memories of being there, was really having these opportunities to connect with people over food and wine, and, you know, culture and music, which was also really vibrant there.
Right. Sounds like that just kind of seared, that's part of your spirit now, as you carry a little bit of that.
Part of me.
That's right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's amazing. Like food and music are one of the best ways to connect with the culture without the barrier of language. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Bongo flavor music. And I don't know if you knew this, but this is actually, so this is a little tip for our friends at the wineries, is that actually Tanzania is the second, I think it has the second largest wine production in sub-Saharan Africa after South Africa.
Christy probably
so it's not a big, it's very fledgling wine region, but in the capital city, which is Dodoma, which is kind of centrally located. It was started by a bunch of Italian missionaries. Probably has a little ways to go in terms of broader marketing and production, but you never know. Maybe in another 20 years, we'll be talking about Tanzanian wine. So
maybe we'll go there next week.
20 years ago, nobody knew about Argentine Malbec, and look where it is now. So
right.
Tip of the day.
Tip of the day.
Yeah.
Colleen, thank you. That was so.
That's an awesome story.
Stories are so inspiring, and I'm just energized now to go run into the kitchen and try everybody's recipes. Luckily, they are going to be on our blog for everybody watching today, and we're all going to have access to them after this episode, as fast as I can type. So, so in conclusion, Regina, we'll ask our always question that we ask at the end of our episode. Do you want to lead the way with that question?
Sure. So, and I'm drinking a little Chenin Blanc from Babylonstoren, and it is one of my favorites. It was the fan favorite of the whites that we tried a few weeks back, and it is just lovely, full of fruit, rich mouthfeel. Very, very elegant Chenin Blanc. And I am going to go into this last question, which is, I think, one of the biggest questions that we have of the night. And I'll start with Christy and move around to Colleen and Marianne. Why is diversity and inclusiveness important to you in your business?
Because I think like having diversity, it just brings, it's very vanilla if we're all the same. And so I think that that's why we get excited about these flavors from other countries. And, you know, like this oxtail that, you know, I have never cooked that, but now I'm going to. And I think that like taking these pieces from other places
Yeah.
makes us richer and better and stronger. And that's why we do have to focus on diversity and make sure that, again, it's like vanilla is kind of boring if you just have vanilla. So we need all the flavors. And I mean, I've learned so much, honestly, from every country that I have imported wine from. You end up learning a lot about the roots of the people and the country and how this whole process began. And you know, that's, I think, one of the amazing things about wine and food is it, like you said, Colleen, like really just brings people together. It's a reason for us to come together, and we need that. So, and we really need it right now, whether it's over Zoom or hopefully face to face very soon.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Colleen?
Yeah, I mean, I would jump on the same bandwagon. I think that, you know, diversity and inclusion just opens our minds up to new ideas. It brings in new innovation. It allows us to sort of think beyond the borders of what we know. And I think that that always opens us up. And you know, I started, you know, my you know, remarks saying, like, for me, the thing I love about my job is learning, and I learn so much from other people, other places, other cultures, how things are done. And I think we all benefit from that creativity, that innovation that allows us to open up our minds and be better and more interesting people. So yeah, I double down on what Christy said. And you know, I think I think these are super challenging times. I think we have a lot to work through, certainly as a nation, and we haven't talked politics, which is probably good. But I'm hopeful for the future because I think, I mean, I'm hopeful for the future because conversations like this, I think, open the door to discovery, and I think that discovery is really important.
Absolutely.
Right. Well,
so, Marianne, would you like to chime in on that?
Well, triple down, right?
Triple down.
On all of the above. You know, I mean, if one thing that the coronavirus has taught us is how much we miss connecting. It's part of our DNA. It's part of human experience is to connect with people. I think that there are so many forces out there trying to divide us, but what we really miss so much is the ability to just connect with another person. You get on a plane, you go into a strange new country or city or culture, and you realize that you have these instincts that you never even knew you had, or gifts or abilities to connect with people that you never knew you had back home. So you go out and you see strange new people, and they all love to eat breakfast and lunch and dinner and have a drink and
snacks.
And, you know, gosh, I like doing that too. And there's nothing that just brings people together than to be able to share, to be able to be generous with each other. You know, I mean, it's one of the things I miss most. And again, when this is over, oh my gosh, I'm going to travel everywhere, you know, and I just can't wait to connect with you guys. I mean, we've seen each other on Zoom, but I would love to connect with you in person. I'd love to go I want to go to your wine store in Atlanta and your restaurant in Atlanta and visit Oregon and visit South Africa. I just cannot wait. Yeah. I cannot wait until we are able to connect face to face again.
But she said,
take it for granted again. Well, we will never take
We'll never take it for granted.
Contact again, ever. That was a beautiful summary, you guys. And really, when you talk about connection, that's a perfect way that Regina and I end these conversations. And that's what brought us to these conversations, wasn't it, Regina? Because
absolutely,
we had so many commonalities. Regina in Atlanta and grew up in Georgia, and I being from Oregon and grew up from Oregon. And however, Regina and I share a tremendous amount of commonalities in what was happening in Atlanta with riots. When we first taped our first episode, there was simultaneously riots in the city of Atlanta, and also protests that got very violent. Unfortunately, for the people who were trying to protest peacefully, there was some violence involved with that too. And so Regina and I are living a very similar path. We're also, of course, bonded by our expertise and a love of wine. So we try to bring those conversations to the forefront with things like this, and appreciate you all participating, because food and wine are a way of uniting us all, but also we can talk about these topics that really kind of need to be addressed. More the commonalities that unite us, and make a positive out of some things going on that are pretty negative right now. So with that in mind, thank you for amplifying Cheers to Change.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all for bringing us together.
Yes, my pleasure. All right, until next time, thanks for visiting Cheers for Change. Regina, love you like a sister.
Cheers, love you.
Cheers.
Everybody, have a great night.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.